Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The clerk will call the roll.
Councilor Recupero, absent. Councilor Teneri Garcia, absent. Councilor Robinson. Here. Councilor Taylor.
Here.
Councilor Lopez.
Here.
Councilor Vega Maldonado. Here. Councilor Avellaneda.
Here.
Councilor Brown.
Here.
Councilor Vido, absent. Councilor De Jesus, absent. And Councilor Judy Garcia, absent. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You have a quorum, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
No.
At this time, we will open the floor for public speaking. We do have public hearing on a couple of amendments tonight. Zoning changes. That'll be separate. But from right now, this is for general public speaking. Anyone wishing to speak to the council can come up to the microphone, and you will be given 5 minutes. Please state your name and address. Seeing none, I'll now open, go to the next, sorry.
My name is Tony Hernandez, 3 County Road, Chelsea, long-time Chelsea resident. Going back about a good 15 years ago, I started hanging flags all around my area up there on the bridge. Then about 4 or 5 years ago, the city took account to putting flags in there. I know there is up there cameras. Somehow, somebody had gone in there and just ripped up flags, and that is embarrassing. I was really upset. This should not happen. Today, somebody hung up a banner out there. Somebody went up and took it off. I think the right to exercise, to demonstrate, or do whatever, I don't know if it got to do with the DOT or what, but if somebody puts a sign in there, even if you don't like it, it should be respected. You know, when they're taking the right of me to express myself, somebody else is taking away from me. You know, so that's what I'm going to say. And I don't know what's everybody here, you know, so that's all I'm going to say for now.
Hello, like you said, like public announcements. I'm not sure if this should be a public announcement or public speaking. I'm Catherine Palencia, 745 Broadway, and I just wanted to let you know all of my hard work for summer reading this summer for our youth. So just stop by the library and yes, and I would be happy to see you there. Thank you.
Seeing no further speakers, we'll now close the public speaking portion. I'll now open up the public hearing portion. Tonight we have 3 separate items that are on our agenda for public hearing. At this time, I will open up the public hearing regarding an ordinance establishing the building energy reporting and disclosure requirements. A copy of this ordinance can be found at the Chelsea City Council office, or can be sent via email requested to fmalera@chelseama.gov for an electronic copy. Anyone here speaking on the establishing of a building energy reporting and disclosure requirements, please step up to the microphone and state your name and address.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thomas Ambrosino, City Manager. I'm here as a proponent of this ordinance. We had a fairly comprehensive subcommittee meeting on this ordinance and went through it in some detail. In essence, this is a reporting requirement for large property owners to report to the city on their energy usage. Other communities nearby to us have adopted similar ordinances. During the course of our subcommittee, 2 items were brought to our attention that we had agreed warranted amendments, and so we have submitted an amended version that does two things. One, it strikes all references to requiring any property owner subject to this ordinance from reporting on water usage. We will be able to generate that information internally. And so that has been stricken from the amendment. And the second thing that is has been changed in the amended version, which was presented to the council, is that we now explicitly clarify that no individual condominium owner can be held liable under this ordinance for a failure to report if their condominium association does not report. The enforcement would be solely against the condominium association. And again, the ordinance only applies to larger condominium buildings of 20 or more units. Okay. So you do have the amended version in front of you, and that's the one that the city is proposing for adoption. Thank you.
Seeing no further speakers, I will now close that hearing on the ordinance establishing building and energy reporting. I will now move on to our next item on the agenda and open up the public hearing for the establishing of the, or amendment of the wage theft ordinance, anti-wage theft ordinance. It's a copy of the budget can be found, or rather the ordinance can be found at the Chelsea City Council office, or you can email fmalera@chelseama.gov for a copy. If there's anyone here who wants to speak about the pending anti-wage theft law, please come up to the microphone, state your name and address. You'll have 4 minutes.
Tony Hernandez, 3 County Road, Chelsea. First of all, I want to commend all of you for being here today. I'm just surprised there's no more people here for this vote. It means a lot to us in the labor movement. This city was a fruit city in 2016. They passed it. The underground economy here is killing, not underground, the wage theft is killing the legal, all these companies out there, they play by the rules, are getting screwed. And who's paying for? The little guys that go out there and do the work. What this is going to do is going to get everybody in the same playing field. And I just hope when this stands, you look into it to make sure this language in there, they have Chelsea residents on site when a contractor's coming over here and do work in our area. If you coming over, all this construction goes in here, you see license plates. It's sad. You see license plates in New Hampshire, Rhode Island. And I live in Chelsea for 50 years. I know a lot of people in Chelsea. They do construction, but none of them are there. You know, and at the same time, I want to commend you for being here and taking this vote. I'm just kind of sad that it's all the seats are not full in there. Thank you.
Seeing no further speakers, I will continue. I will leave open the public hearing on the wage theft. We'll now move on to the public hearing regarding the amending zoning ordinance to which would allow for the issuance of visitor parking stickers to residential units that receive relief from off-street parking requirements. Is there anyone who would like to speak on the amendment to the zoning that will allow visitor passes in specialty permitted buildings? Seeing none, I will leave that public hearing open and we'll continue. We'll now move on to the next portion of our meeting, which is the approval of the minutes. We have the items from the minutes from June 6, 2022. Is there a motion in the council?
Minutes from our last meeting on June 6 and 13.
Councilor Brown asked that we accept and file the June 6 minutes under suspension. Seeing no objection. We now have a special meeting minutes from the June 13th, 2022. Is there a motion?
Mr. President, to accept and file these minutes. Also, I I had said earlier 6 and 13, but separately, we accept them.
Council Brown asked that we accept the minutes from the special meeting held on June 13th. Seeing no objection, that is accepted under suspension. We'll now move on to communications. We have a communication received from City Manager regarding the grant program for sports leagues. Dear councilors, I am writing a response to a City Council order requesting that the city set aside funding for a new grant program to provide financial support to nonprofits and organizations running sports programs in the city. In response to this council order, I have met with the staff of the Division of Recreation and Cultural Affairs to start discussing the parameters of such a grant program. Over the course of the summer, the Recreational Division will develop criteria for such a program. I expect a return to the City Council in the fall with more specifics and hopefully a funding source. What is the wish of the council?
Accept and file a communication under suspension if there are no objections.
Seeing none. Just for sake of information, we did receive word that House Bill H 4789, which was the creation of a linkage fee for funding, has been ruled favorably out of the Housing and Steering Policy onto third reading. So hopefully by this September, we'll have some funding for those programs. We have a communication received from City Manager Tom Ambrosino regarding council orders regarding parks. Dear councilors, I'm writing a response to a recent council orders pertaining to our parks. The orders request better maintenance by those utilizing the parks, new signage, and more police patrols. We respect those who secure permits to use our parks. A requirement of the permits is to leave the park in good condition. Any permittee violating this provision may have its permits revoked. As for signage about prohibiting alcohol, we will add such signs in the park where appropriate. The DPW does plan to install updated signage for all of our parks this season. Finally, the orders request more police patrols. I've asked Chief Kais to ensure that this is accomplished. In certain parks, we are signing officers on overtime to do more active patrol. What is the wish of the council?
Accept and file a communication under suspension if there's no objections.
Seeing none, that motion is adopted under suspension. We have a communication from the city manager regarding maternity and paternity leave. Dear councilors, I'm writing a request to what I consider offering paid maternity and paternity leave. Currently, the city of Chelsea does not offer any additional paid leave for maternity or paternity time off. Employees taking time off for this purpose utilize their vacation time or other existing leave to cover this out-of-work period. Recently, the city has been exploring with HR and the legal department the possibility of additional paid benefits for those on maternity or paternity leave. We intend to discuss this topic with our employees during the upcoming collective bargaining negotiations. It is quite possible that some additional leave for maternity, paternity will include in the next round of approved union contracts. What is the wish of the council?
Accept and file a communication under suspension if there's no objection.
In stereo. Councilor Robinson, Councilor Brown, both asked for this to be accepted and filed under suspension. Seeing no objection, it is moved. We now have a communication from the city manager in regards to dog waste. Dear councilors, I'm writing a response to a recent city council request. I take some steps to address the dog waste problem throughout the city. Unfortunately, there is no simple solution to this problem of increasing dog waste, particularly in our parks. But I am taking 2 steps to try to help. First, I've asked the animal control officer to pay more attention to the problem of unleashed dogs and dog waste in our parks. Some additional enforcement cannot hurt. Second, my office will be working with the city clerk's office to mail new brochures to all licensed dog owners, notifying them of the existing dog regulations and the rules of our parks. We did mail a similar brochure several years ago, but we may have many new dog owners who may not know the city's specific regulations regarding dogs. I do want to clarify the situation involving dogs in our public parks. With 2 exceptions, there is no prohibition of dogs in our parks. They simply must be leashed at all times. To the extent there is some inconsistent signage in our parks about this issue, I expect the DPW to work on correcting and clarifying the language in our parks over the course of the summer. The 2 exceptions to the general rule are as follows. First, in parks under the jurisdiction of the school department, Dogs are prohibited from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. during school days in session. Second, the one designated dog park that we have, the fenced-in area of the Mystic River Overlook Park under the Tobin Bridge on Lower Broadway, dogs may be unleashed. What is the wish of the council?
Accept and file a communication under suspension if there's no objections.
The motion is carried. We now have a communication from the manager in regard to information on Memorial Day celebration. Dear councilors, according to our veteran agent Francisco Toro, the city expended a total of $3,915 on Memorial Day efforts this year. This included food in the amount of $800, wreaths in the amount of $2,440, and flags, $2,700. Less than 75 reimbursement equals $625. We understand that the City Council would like additional food and flags available for Memorial Day morning event, in addition to the flag plantings that are completed in advance of Memorial Day. With no administrative support this year, it was difficult for the Veterans Agent to expand efforts. However, with the approval of the FY23 budget of a part-time administrative assistant, we should be able to enhance next year's event. What is the wish of the council?
Accept and file a communication under suspension if I can speak, Mr. President.
Council Brown
Thank you,
makes a motion to accept and file under suspension. He has the floor.
Thank you. I want to thank my colleague, Enio Lopez and Recupero for bringing this in. This year we saw an increase in the participation at the memorial. It just shows that the city throughout the past few years have been stuck in. We're starting to get really excited about our veterans and the Memorial Day parades. And I know that Tom, is working with Francisco to make funding available. What we need to do also is try to figure out how we can anticipate how the crowd is going to be. Every year we're always putting food out there, just watermelon, hot dogs, donations, a lot of stuff. It's good to see our community come out to support our veterans, and I just think because these guys made this request that we ought to look and see if we can get a little more cash for this event next year, because people are coming out and supporting the work of the veterans. And so I want to just thank those two for putting it together. Thank you.
Councilor Lopez.
Thank you. I see that he mentioned flags. I didn't see one flag this year for this celebration. So I want to see where they spend that money on that flag, but I didn't see one. Thank you.
For clarification, they were used at the cemetery and also in Chelsea Square for the flag planting. That's where the flags were, in those two locations. We have a communication received from City Manager regarding Tom Ambrosino regarding new hazard mitigation plan. Dear councilors, I'm pleased to submit to the City Council the City of Chelsea's Hazard Mitigation Plan 2022 update. A copy of the plan is available in the City Council office. The plan must be formally adopted by the City Council. A resolution for the adoption of the plan is attached. The plan provides a risk assessments for natural hazards in Chelsea, including but not limited to flooding, high winds, severe winter, weather, earthquakes, and extreme temperatures. In accordance to federal law, every community is required to prepare and adopt a hazard mitigation plan every 5 years in order to be eligible for federal hazard mitigation funds to address the risk. The city has received such funds in the past and will seek additional funds as the need arises. Prepared by the city, for the city, by the Metropolitan Area Planning Council, the planning process involves several city departments and public input, representatives of the Emergency Management Office, the Department of Planning and Development, the Department of Public Works, the Inspectional Services Department, the Health and Human Services Department, and the Fire Department met several times to aid in the preparation of the plan. Public meetings were held with the Planning Board not only to seek their input, but also receive input from the general public.
Make a motion that we waive the rest of the reading. We had a hearing on it and adopted under a roll call vote tonight.
Councilor Brown asked that we waive the rest of the reading, accept and file under suspension. There will be something under new business. We have a communication from City Manager regarding request to appropriate Commonwealth Transportation Infrastructure bills. Wait a second. Hold on. Let me see. Here it is. Dear councilors, I'm writing in request to the City Council to appropriate $49,247.90 in available funds from the Commonwealth Transportation Infrastructure Fund to assist in our FY23 street and sidewalk program. If approved, the appropriate funds would supplement our existing DBW road improvement line item and will be spent by the city before the close of FY23. These extra funds available for the appropriation come from the recent annual distribution to the city based upon rides originating in Chelsea from the transportation network companies, TNC, such as Uber and Lyft. As part of the new regulatory scheme, TNCs are required to pay the Commonwealth a 20 cents per ride assessment. One half of that assessment is distributed proportionally to each city and town in the Commonwealth based on the number of rides that originate in the municipality. For calendar year 2021, the cities of Chelsea's share of this assessment, based on TNC company rides originating in Chelsea, was $49,247.90. The Massachusetts Department of Revenue has previously determined that local municipalities must specifically appropriate these TNC funds in order to be spent. Further, the funds must be utilized to address the impact of transportation network services on municipal roads, bridges, and other transportation infrastructure. Accordingly, I'm asking now that the $49,247.90 available to Chelsea be appropriated to the DPW Streets and Sidewalks Capital Road Improvement line item to be used for FY23 roadwork work. I've attached a draft order to accomplish the requested council action. Councilor Brown?
Accept it, file it, we'll do a roll call coming up later.
Councilor Brown asked to be accepted and filed. We have something coming up in new business. We have a communication regarding, from Mr. Tom Ambrosino, appointments to the boards and commissions. Councilors, pursuant to Section 4.2 of the Charter, I'm recommending the following individuals to our boards and commissions. For reappointment to the Affordable Housing Trust Fund Board, Ms. Colleen Kelly. For reappointment to the Affordable Housing Trust Fund Board, Ms. Alexis Turgeon. For reappointment to the Human Rights Commission, Mr. Christian De Jesus Franco. I respectfully ask your approval for these appointments and for a waiver of residency for Ms. Colleen Kelly. Councilor Lee Robinson asked that we have a roll call vote. Since this is the first reading, we will need a unanimous approval
Yes.
of the said roll call. Otherwise, we'll have to have a second reading. The clerk will call a roll.
Councilor Recupero, absent. Councilor Teneri Garcia, absent. Councilor Robinson?
Yes.
Councilor Taylor?
Yes.
Councilor Lopez?
Yes.
Councilor Vega Maldonado?
Yes.
Councilor Avellaneda?
Yes.
And Councilor Brown?
Yes.
Councilor Vido, absent. Councilor De Jesus, absent. Councilor Judy Garcia, absent. You have 6 votes in favor, unanimous consent.
Motion carries. We have a communication received from Tom Ambrosino regarding the appointment of the Public Works Commissioner. Dear councilors, I'm writing to inform you that I've decided to appoint acting DBW Public Works Commissioner Lou Mamalette to the position of permanent DBW Public Works Commissioner, effective July 1, 2022. I've been quite satisfied with Mr. Mamalette's performance both during his time as Deputy Commissioner and in his few months as Acting Commissioner. I feel confident he will assist me effectively during my remaining tenure with the city. Pursuant to an administrative code, I intend to grant Mr. Mamalette a waiver of residency requirement set forth in the Administrative Code, Part 4, Section 1-1201. A copy of Mr. Mamalette's resume is attached. I request you provide me with any comments on the proposed waiver within 7 days.
And that's to accept and file the communication, and actually, on the waiver, we do need a roll call vote on the adoption.
I don't think you need a waiver.
Is that under new business, though?
We could do it right now if you prefer.
So
Is there an order on the new
there's an
business?
order under new business for
For
a
the
waiver. For a
Yeah.
waiver. So,
Want to wait till the waiver,
Well, we can wait till the waiver's, no
when
problem.
it comes up?
okay. Well, just in case, we'll do a roll call vote on this communication.
On this, okay.
We don't have the order to
Communicate-
do a roll call.
Just on the communication.
Communication can be accepted and filed. We don't
Okay.
need a vote.
Yeah.
So no roll call.
Okay.
We now have a notice regarding a notice of waiver intent pursuant to the administrative code. I'm writing to notify you my intention to hire Miss Nubia Verol of Malden for a part-time position of program assistant in the recreational and cultural affairs, and to grant her a waiver of residency. I request that you provide me with any comments in the proposed waiver within 7 days.
Accept and file the communication, Mr. President.
Councilor Brown asks that we accept and file the communication under suspension. We have again, a notice of residency waiver and for a request for a conflict of interest law exemption to city manager to his intent to hire Mr. Joseph E. DiCatano of Malden. For-
Mr. President, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Mr. President?
Councilor Brown?
Yeah, so I just have a question with this here. I know the waivers, notice that according to our laws, the city manager have to give us, but do we need to take the vote on the interest of
I would-
conflict?
Yeah.
There was an
Yes,
accompanying order that will be coming up later on.
Okay,
So right now, we're just accepting
You
and
can accept
filing
and
the,
file
Communication.
the communication.
okay.
Councilor Brown asked that we accept and file the communication. It will be something under new business.
Thank you.
We have a communication from the city manager regarding the analysis of the downtown bus bike lane. Dear councilors, as you may recall, when the city council approved the pilot bus bike lane for downtown corridor in January 20th,
Subcommittee meeting.
January of 2020, the city agreed to study the
I'll
impacts.
ask to waive the rest of the reading and move it to a subcommittee on conference.
Councilor Robinson asked that we accept and file the
Accept and file.
communication and send this to a subcommittee. We will be holding a subcommittee with the city manager and his staff regarding this traffic study on the bus lane, and also will ask my colleagues to send the 2 orders tonight to a second reading, which we will address in the future, the next regularly scheduled meeting. Communication received from City Solicitor Cheryl Watson regarding the legal opinions to the City Council Clerk Selection Subcommittee. Dear councilors, the City Solicitor's Office was assigned to determine the council president's authority to name a subcommittee tasked with the hiring of a new city clerk.
I'd ask to waive the reading, accept and file a communication under suspension. If there are no objections.
Seeing no objection, the Councilor Robinson asked that we waive the reading. We have a communication received from the parking clerk, Jeanette Citron White, regarding approved actions taken at the Traffic and Parking Commission meeting on June 7th, 2022. Dear ladies and gentlemen, in accordance to Section 6-3 of the Charter, the following actions were approved in the June 7th meeting. Agenda item number 3, to approve painted crosswalks, add curb extensions at the corners of Washington and Jefferson Avenue, add new roadway signage and pavement markings based on a request submitted by Mary Fester. Agenda item number 5, to post a handicap sign at 34 Maverick Street based on the application submitted by a local resident. Agenda item number 11, to approve a bus stop improvement on Washington Avenue near Anise Road, Fennell Street, and Garfield based on the request by Katie Moulton of the Water and Sewer Department on behalf of the MBTA. What is the wish of the council?
Accept and file a communication under suspension if there's no objections.
Seeing no objections. We now have a communication from the Community Preservation Chair, Juan Vega, regarding 2 recommendations for grants from the Community Preservation Fund. Dear councilors, the Chelsea Community Preservation Committee is pleased to send to the City Council 2 recommendations for grants from the Community Preservation Fund. At the general 2016 election, 65% of the Chelsea voters adopted to adopt the provisions of the Community Preservation Act and to impose a 1.5 surcharge on residential and commercial properties with exemptions to low and moderate income homeowners, as well as exemption of the first $100,000 of property value. City Council voted to establish the ordinance of the Community Preservation Committee and make the recommendations authorized. The committee is composed of 4 members appointed by the city manager and confirmed by the City Council, as well as representatives from 5 city organizations as required by statute.
I'd ask the president to waive the rest of the reading. There will be some coming up under new business. Accept and file a communication.
Councilor Robinson asked that we accept and file the communication, the suspension. That motion carries. We have a communication received by City Council President Roy Avellaneda regarding the creation of the special committee to search for new administrative assistants. Dear councilors, as you are aware, we recently received a resignation letter from our administrative assistant, Fatima Malera. Please join me in thanking her for her dedicated service and wishing her our best on our future endeavors. In response to her letter, please be advised that the following city councilors have been appointed to serve on a special committee to select an administrative assistant. Attached, you will also find a job description and job posting for this position. This job posting was revised as of 3 years ago. It is, in my opinion, a fair and accurate description for this job. I ask for a roll call vote to accept this communication and allow the special committee members to work with Chelsea Human Resource Department in posting this position, interviewing candidates, and recommending to the City Council a new candidate be hired as the administrative assistant. Those names are Council Vice President Calvin T. Brown, Chair; Councilor at Large Damali Vido; Council District 3 Norielis de Jesus. Councilor Brown?
File a communication under suspension.
Roll call.
Roll call?
Roll call.
Okay. Actually, make a motion to have a roll call vote on the creation of the subcommittee.
Councilor Recupero, absent. Councilor Teneri Garcia, absent. Councilor Robinson?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Taylor?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Lopez?
Yes.
Councilor Vega Maldonado?
Yes.
Councilor Avellaneda?
Yes.
Councilor Brown?
Yes.
Councilor Vido absent. Councilor De Jesus absent. And Councilor Judy Garcia absent. 6 in favor, none opposed.
We have a communication received from the parking clerk, Jeanette Citron White, regarding approved action taken at the Traffic and Parking Commission meeting on May 3rd. Dear ladies and gentlemen, in accordance with the 6.3 of the Chelsea Charter, the following actions were taken by the Traffic and Parking Commission meeting. Item number 5, to approve the revised construction management plan related to the demolition and ground-up construction project of the Innis Apartments redevelopment with the provision of, on the request submitted by Mary Davis, the project director of JJC JMC Chelsea LLC. Please review the attached plans. What is the wish of the council?
Accept and file a communication under suspension. If there are no objections.
Seeing none, that motion carries. We have a committee report. Report by Councilor Avellaneda regarding the subcommittee on conference to discuss the Chelsea City Council clerk search. Dated June 13th, the councilors, I am writing to inform the Chelsea City Council that the subcommittee on conference met on June 1st, 2022 to discuss the language for the City Council clerk position. During the meeting, the amendments were suggested to the original presented by the special subcommittee for the council clerk search. The job posting is attached to this report and has to be adopted on a roll call vote at the regularly scheduled meeting, June 27th. The June 1st Subcommittee on Conference meeting was attended by City Council President Roy Avellaneda, Vice President Calvin Brown, Councilors Judith Garcia, Norielis de Jesus, Leo Robinson, Todd Taylor, Damali Vido, and Giovanni Crupro. Additionally, the meeting was attended by and participated by the Chelsea Human Resource Director, Edward Ells. Councilor Brown?
Make a motion to adopt the communication under roll call vote.
Clerk will call a roll.
Councilor Recupero, absent. Councilor Teneri Garcia, absent. Councilor Robinson?
Yes.
Councilor Taylor? Councilor Lopez?
Yes.
Councilor Vega Maldonado? Councilor Avellaneda?
Yes.
And Councilor Brown?
Yes.
Councilor Vido absent. Councilor De Jesus absent. Councilor Judy Garcia absent. 6 in favor, none opposed, motion adopted.
Okay.
We now move on to unfinished business. First item under unfinished business is the Chelsea Wage Theft Ordinance.
What's the motion?
Mr. Vice President, I asked, do we lay on this table, and I may speak on this?
So you lay it on the table?
A motion
Like
to
to
lay on the
speak?
table.
Okay. So you'd like to speak on it? You have the
Please,
floor.
I want to explain on this. In talking to supporters for this wage theft, anti-wage theft, I realized that there was still some language that needed to be tweaked. In particular, the language that I had included, right now, we do not have any language that would include, as other communities do, anyone who receives or enters into a TIF agreement. And that basically stipulates that if there's a developer that hires a contractor, they have to ascribe to our wage theft laws and conditions as part of the TIF agreement. What was not aware at the time is other communities are now also doing, if there was any grant money provided, or if there's any Community Preservation Act money included, so that I may go back and make amendments and not do it on the floor, and where it may get messy, I'd rather have the ability to come with this fresh and present a wage theft amendment that will include those other granting or other funding sources that are received from the city. I think it's fair that any funding that comes from the city to a developer or any sort of project should also be included in all these, this wage theft ordinance. So that's my reason for asking for a delay on the table.
Okay. Anyone else like to speak on it? Okay, so anyone else like to speak on it? No one else, so the motion will be laid on the table and come up at the liking of the council president. Next order, Mr. Chair.
The ordinance establishing building energy reporting and disclosure requirements by amending the Code of Ordinances. Attached is the amended version.
Chair
would
recognize
read
the
it.
president of the council.
Thank you. I make a motion to adopt on a roll call vote the amended version of the ordinance to establish the building energy reporting and disclosure requirements by amending the Code of Ordinances, if I may speak.
You got the mic, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. To my colleagues, as the city manager earlier stated, there were a couple of tweaks we did from the original order that was, or ordinance that was introduced, and would satisfy some concerns that were brought up during our subcommittee. In essence, to those in the audience and to those at home, what this does is it allows the city to collect data. We are trying as a state, as a nation, as a world, to try to be more energy efficient and make less of an impact on our environment. And part of that is trying to conserve energy and so forth, electricity in particular in this matter. But in order to create that policy, you need data. And you can't create the laws or ordinances or the rules that we can put into policy without that data being collected. What this does is simply require our largest buildings to send that information to our city, our Department of Housing and Planning, so that that data can be collected, and then manipulated, and then create with that the information ways to help our building owners and our residents use less energy. So again, it's simply a way to collect data so that we can have better policy in place. And I hope my colleagues will vote on this unanimously tonight. Thank you.
Anyone else like to speak? May I, from the floor?
From the floor.
So I just want to say that this is an amended version. We had a version that came before us, as Council President stated. We had a subcommittee conference. Some of the council members that's not here tonight had some questions. They wanted to have a few things changed, so we talked to the city manager. It was compromised. Everything's compromised to benefit the residents of Chelsea. We're now going to present and vote tonight on this amended version of what the city manager initially brought to us. So we need a roll call vote for this here to pass.
Councilor Robinson?
Yes.
Councilor Taylor?
Yes.
Councilor Lopez?
Yes.
Councilor Vega Maldonado?
Yes.
Councilor Laneda?
Yes.
Councilor Brown?
Yes.
Councilor Vido absent, Councilor De Jesus absent, and Councilor Julie Garcia absent. 6 in favor, none opposed, 5 absent. Motion is adopted. second readings, Mr. Chairman.
Motion to adopt the appointments, second reading,
Communication from Tom Ambrosino, appointments to boards and commission.
I don't have,
on a roll call
I
vote.
have them. You need them?
You need it, Paul?
oh, appointments, okay, I think I got them here, and they're under second readings, okay. First item under second readings, appointments to boards and commissions.
Just name the four
There's a
people.
motion on the floor by Council President Roy Avellaneda to roll call vote to adopt the appointments and commission members.
The Terry Widener, Jared DeYoung, Michelle Diaz, and Deputy City Manager Ned Keefe.
Yeah, if you could just read the titles or the positions they're being reappointed to, would be great.
So how-
They're right there with them.
See if you have the titles, I don't have the titles.
Affordable housing.
We have-
Crystal Carrillo,
Yeah.
Gamboa, two-year term, affordable housing.
So the list I have is, you're looking for
We
the...
have the list.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Board of Library Trustees, Ms. Grace Lee. Cultural Council, Mr. Dikea Christmas. For reappointment to the Community Preservation Act as the Planning Board Representative, Ms. Mimi Rancantor. For reappointment to the Community Preservation Act, the Chelsea Housing Authority Representative, Mr. Juan Vega. For reappointment to the Community Preservation Act, Mr. Yahya Noor, Washington Ave. For appointment to the Chelsea Tree Board, Mr. David Vensis. For appointment to the new tree warden as a member of the Chelsea Tree Board Housing and Community Development Senior Project Manager, Hillary Dimino. For reappointment to the Chelsea Disability Commission, Mr. Fidel Martez. For reappointment to the Human Rights Commission, Ms. Adele Schlotzauer. For appointment to the Youth Commission, Ms. Daniela Maldonado.
Thank you, Paul.
Okay.
Roll call.
Roll call.
Roll call.
Any speaking on appointments before the roll call? Ask for roll call.
Okay, let me just get this. Who requested, Roy?
Yeah, Roy requested it. You requested?
Councilor Recupero, absent. Councilor Teneri Garcia, absent. Councilor Robinson?
Yes.
Councilor Taylor?
Yes.
Councilor Lopez?
Yes.
Councilor Vega Maldonado?
Yes.
Councilor Avellaneda?
Yes.
Councilor Brown?
Yes.
Councilor Vido absent. Councilor De Jesus absent. And Councilor Judy Garcia absent. 6 in favor, none opposed, 5 absent. The motion is adopted.
Thank you. One moment.
At this time, we're going to now take up some second readings on financial matters. Our counselor, and vice president, and chair of the Committee on Finance is going to make some motions to take some in groupings. So we'll do that so we can speed through the 20-plus end-of-the-year financial orders. The first, Councilor Brown, which ones would you like to group?
So if we can do the first, which is the salary reserves, is 12J, 12K, 12L, 12M, 12N, 12O, and 11P, I'm sorry, 11P, 11M, and 11O.
11, so I have, everyone follow top right corner,
One,
12J,
yes, 12K,
12K,
12L,
12L,
11M,
11M
like in Mary.
as in Mary,
11N as in Nancy,
11N as in Nancy,
11O as in Ocean,
11O,
and 11P as in Paul.
11P as in Paul. So
So
we
the-
will be taking a motion to adopt all those financial orders all together unless there's an objection to take these one by one. Seeing no objection,
Vote has to be unanimous.
vote has to be unanimous.
Yeah.
Councilor Brown, any words before you take?
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President. Again, this is something that we've actually had, the whole full council have had input in this year. We've actually had these meetings in the subcommittees. We talked about them in the past meetings regarding, we have defined exactly what these orders will be voted on and the purpose of these financial appropriations. So hope that we can all get these passed. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Clerk, call a roll.
Councilor Recupero, absent. Councilor Teneri Garcia, absent. Councilor Robinson?
Yes.
Councilor Taylor?
Yes.
Councilor Lopez?
Yes.
Councilor Vega Maldonado? Councilor Avellaneda?
Yes.
Councilor Brown?
Yes.
Councilor Vido, absent. Councilor De Jesus, absent. Councilor Judy Garcia, absent. 6 in favor, none opposed, 5 absent. Motion adopted.
Council Brown, the next grouping, which one would you like to?
So the next group I'd like to take on a roll call vote, adopt, would be the free cash. And if you want, it's 11Q, 11R, 11S, 11T, 11O, 11V as in Victor, 11W, and the last one would be 11X.
So the last one will be the order to 121,390 for snow removal. That's the last one as a
Last
group.
one, free cash.
Once again, we need a unanimous vote.
Councilor Recupero, absent. Councilor Teneri Garcia, absent. Councilor Robinson?
Yes.
Councilor Taylor?
Yes.
Councilor Lopez?
Yes.
Councilor Vega Maldonado? Councilor Avellaneda?
Yes.
Councilor Brown? Councilor
Yes.
Vido, absent. Councilor De Jesus, absent. Councilor Judy Garcia, absent. 6 in favor, none opposed, 5 absent. Motion is adopted.
Mr. President, we have a donation from Ms. Ellis Lynn, $100. We have to take that on the roll call vote, if we can take that out and vote for that tonight.
We have an order introduced by Councilor Calvin Brown at the last meeting and moved to a second reading by Councilor Leo Robinson pursuant to Chapter 44, Section 53A. The city hereby accepts the gift to the Chelsea Public Library to support the library in the amount of $100 from Lynn Ellis in memory of Beverly Kaplan.
Ask for a roll call vote, just want to say a few words. Thank you, Mr. President. Again, every time we get something, we should, obviously thank the folks for doing it. Every little bit helps. This is a family. We, over the years, get these $100 donations to our library. We give them out to our library, and they put them to use for our youth programs and other programs we have available.
Yes.
But just want to really just say thank you
2 roll calls.
to Ms. Ellis
1 and 1.
on this $100 donation. Thank you. It's a first reading.
Clerk, call a roll.
Councilor Recupero, absent. Councilor Teneri Garcia, absent. Councilor Robinson?
Yes.
Councilor Taylor?
Yes.
Councilor Lopez?
Yes.
Councilor Vega Maldonado?
Yes.
Councilor Avellaneda?
Yes.
Councilor Brown?
Yes.
Councilor Vido, absent. Councilor De Jesus, absent. Councilor Judy Garcia, absent. 6 in favor, none opposed, 5 absent. Motion is adopted.
We have an order introduced by Councilor Brown for the 6 revolving accounts to be authorized. Elder Affairs, $1,000. Housing Community Development Tax Title Foreclosure Revolving Account, $100,000. Public Library Revolving Account, $20,000. Emergency Management Revolving Account, $30,000. Inspectional Services Revolving Account, $30,000. And Community Schools Revolving Account, $100,000. What is wish of the council?
Make a motion to have it adopted under roll call vote.
Clerk, call a roll on the revolving funds as stipulated.
I'm sorry, one second. We have,
Yeah,
did you
the
call this
6.
one also? Is this a separate one?
Separate one.
Okay, great,
Separate,
all
right,
right.
Councilor Recupero, absent. Councilor Teneri Garcia, absent. Councilor Robinson?
Yes.
Councilor Taylor?
Yes.
Councilor Lopez?
Yes.
Councilor Vega Maldonado?
Yes.
Councilor Avellaneda?
Yes.
Councilor Brown?
Yes.
Councilor Vido, absent. Councilor De Jesus, absent. Councilor Judy Garcia, absent. 6 in favor, none opposed, 5 absent. Motion is adopted.
Next order is an order introduced by Councilor Brown for the revolving account for the school department for the non-resident student tuition revolving fund to be authorized in the amount of $250,000. This is the revolving amount for the tuition to the Bunker Hill Community College. Councilor Brown?
Thank you, Mr. President. Make a roll call vote, ask for a roll call vote on the adoption. Just want to say a few words.
You have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Again, this is for our students here. This is how we, give the support that's needed to help the students in Chelsea to go further into their education. A few weeks ago, most of the council members here was at the graduation where we were just really excited to see the 325 students that graduated from our classes of 2022. And many of those students were going on to college. Some was going on to the armed service and then going directly into the workforce. But this is the way that we started a few years ago, that we've actually upped our commitment to our students here in the city of Chelsea, where we've just brought it up a little higher this year to try to do our part in encouraging students to go to these two-year colleges and move on. So this is a helping hand that the city has come together with the city manager, with his vision to continue to support our youth as they leave our high schools and go into their secondary education in college. So congratulations to everyone, and hopefully everyone will benefit from this and come back and show us what our money is doing. Thank you, Mr. President.
Clerk call roll.
Councilor Recupero absent, Councilor Teneri Garcia absent, Councilor Robinson, Councilor Taylor, Councilor Lopez, Councilor Vega Maldonado, Councilor Reneta,
Yes.
Councilor Brown,
Yes.
Councilor Vido absent, Councilor De Jesus absent, Councilor Judy Garcia absent, 6 in favor, none opposed, 5 absent, motion is adopted.
Okay, we're playing musical chairs here. All right, we're about getting close to the end. So,
We have new business order introduced by Councilor Avellaneda.
new business.
A resolution adopting the City of Chelsea Hazard Mitigation Plan 2022 update, whereas the City of Chelsea established a committee to prepare the City of Chelsea Hazard Mitigation Plan 2022 update, and whereas the City of Chelsea Hazard Mitigation Plan 2022 update contains several potential future projects to mitigate potential impacts from natural hazards in the City of Chelsea. And whereas daily notice public meetings were held by the Chelsea Planning Board on February 22nd, 2022, and on March 22nd, 2022, and whereas the City of Chelsea authorizes responsible departments and/or agencies to execute their responsibilities demonstrated in the plan. Now therefore be it resolved that the Chelsea City Council adopts the City of Chelsea Hazard Mitigation Plan 2022 update in accordance with the Massachusetts General Law 40 and 4 of the Charter and Ordinance of the City of Chelsea.
What's the will of the council?
Motion to adopt on a roll call vote.
Okay, motion to adopt. Any questions, any conversation?
Roll call.
Yes.
Councilor Recupero absent, Councilor Teneri Garcia absent, Councilor Robinson,
Yes.
Councilor Taylor,
Yes.
Councilor Lopez.
Yes.
Councilor Vega Maldonado, Councilor Avellaneda,
Yes.
Councilor Brown.
Yes.
Councilor Vido absent, Councilor De Jesus absent, Councilor Judy Garcia absent, 6 in favor, none opposed, 5 absent, motion adopted. Next order of business introduced by Councilor Avellaneda, requests the city manager to inquire about the city going paperless for pay stubs.
Motion to adopt under suspension,
Okay.
if there's no objection.
Next order introduced by Councilor Avellaneda, ordered by this vote, the Chelsea City Council hereby authorizes the city manager to end the one-way Broadway that includes one lane of vehicular traffic with a shared bike bus lane between Fifth Street and Everett Avenue pilot program approved on January 13, 2020, and revert back to the original one-way Broadway two-lane configuration.
What's the will of the council?
Motion to send it to subcommittee.
Motion to send to subcommittee. Okay, would you like to speak on it, Mr.?
Not at this time.
Anyone else like to speak on it?
Coming up
No
next.
action.
I got one more order.
I'm sorry?
I got a similar order.
Okay.
Next order introduced by Councilor Avellaneda, ordered by this vote, the Chelsea City Council hereby authorizes the city manager to make permanent the one-way Broadway that includes one lane of vehicular traffic with a shared bike bus lane between Fifth Street and Everett Avenue pilot program approved on January 13, 2020.
What's the will of the council?
Move to subcommittee, and if I may speak on it?
Yes, sir, you have the floor, Mr. President.
Thank you. Some of you may be wondering, why did I put both ways on there? And basically,
Shared.
the orders are similar. One is to approve it, and the other one is to negate it, and you would think, well, if you, technically, if you don't approve it, does it, it's semantics. Does that mean that it's now put into position and you're actually put into place permanently? Or if you don't agree with it, does that mean this continuation of a bike lane? So I didn't know technically, which way to go, so I just put both orders, and whichever one is prevailing will win at the night that we finally get to vote on this. If many of you may have been paying attention, we received tonight, or this week in our packet, the bike study, or bus lane study, traffic study that was done, completed on the bike path, bus lane pilot program. And we will be meeting with the city manager and with his staff, and we'll talk about the study that was presented, ask questions, and then when we come back after this summer, we'll be voting one way or the other. So I just want to put both orders in place.
Thank you, Mr. President. Anyone else want to speak on it? No further action on that. We're to the next reading.
Next order introduced by Council Avellaneda, ordered that the City Council hereby approves a conflict of interest exemption pursuant to the Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 268A, Section 20B, for the part-time girls basketball coach position in the HHS Division of Recreation and Cultural Affairs to be held by Mr. Joseph DiCatano, effective immediately.
What's the will of the council?
Motion to adopt on a roll call vote?
Motion to adopt under roll call vote. Any comments? Roll call vote, please.
Councilor Recupero, absent. Councilor Teneri Garcia, absent. Councilor Robinson?
Yes.
Councilor Taylor? Yes. Councilor Lopez?
Yes.
Councilor Vega Maldonado?
Yes.
Councilor Avellaneda?
Yes.
Councilor Brown?
Yes.
Councilor Vido, absent. Councilor De Jesus, absent. Councilor Judy Garcia, absent. 6 in favor, none opposed, 5 absent. Motion adopted. The next order, introduced by Councilor Avellaneda, ordered that the Chelsea City Council authorize the appropriation of $49,247.90 as a transfer from Special Revenue TNC Surcharge Distribution Fund 5019 from funds distributed to Chelsea from the Commonwealth Transportation Infrastructure Fund in order to supplement the fiscal year 2023 DPW Streets and Sidewalks Capital Improvement Plans line item account number to be used for the purpose of roadway repair.
What's the will of the council?
I move that we adopt on a roll call vote. If I may rise to speak on this.
1 second, Mr. President. Move to be adopted under roll call vote. You have the floor.
Our rules allow that readings of financial matters can be adopted if it's unanimous on the first reading. So I'm asking my colleagues to allow this to get transferred immediately so we can use these nearly $50,000 for our sidewalks and streets for DPW. To those of you who are here and at home, tonight we received a communication from the city manager that we again, in our 5th year now, received nearly $50,000 of funding from DOR as a result of a fee that is charged to transportation companies such as Lyft and Uber. And it was interesting, not so much the amount, to me personally, not so much the amount, but in reading this is the actual information that's provided in the back, which talks about the number of trips. And the number of trips that were here in our information for Chelsea was nearly 500,000. 492,479 origination trips out of Chelsea, meaning that's how many people last year took Uber or Lyft. Wow. If you think about that, that's nearly 40,000 trips per month, 10,000 per week of cars, people taking Uber or Lyft out of this community, 10,000. It's an amazing number. It means 10,000 people don't want to ride the bus. 10,000 people don't want to get a bike. 10,000 people may not have a car, but still get into one to take them. The other side of that is, it should be 20,000, because if you're taking an Uber in at Chelsea or out of Chelsea, that means you're taking an Uber back. So the real number is 20,000 vehicles last year per week were in and out of this city using Uber. Scarier number, we're actually down. This says in last year, 490 somewhat thousand vehicles last year. Right before COVID, we had nearly 1 million trips originating here. That means 2 million in and out of the community. Mind-boggling. We talked earlier about collecting data from the buildings so that we can know what our energy consumption. This gives you a glimpse of a window, how many cars are coming in and out of our city. 1 million trips, 2 million trips in 2019, taking Uber. Next week, or July 20th, the MBTA is going to use this room to talk about its planned bus proposal. I'm going to be here, and I'm going to ask them, what does your plan do that might make a dent in the number of people living in this community that don't feel like riding your bus? What are you doing wrong? How are we going to get people out of cars if we're not providing them with the public transportation that is convenient for them and serves their needs? That's the data in this information I'm looking at. We talk about these new roadways and bike lanes and all that, but 1 million people taking Uber, Lyft prior to COVID, when we know that's going to come back? That's the data we need to be looking at and deciding and making decisions on, policy on, just like you're collecting data for the electricity use, utility use. There's the information. People are not giving up their cars according to this. People are not using the public transportation according to this. That's what we got to advocate for. And I'm just bringing that up so that I make my colleagues aware of what this document provided you.
1
A little bit
minute,
of
Counselor.
information. So I will be voting for tonight, but of course this carries a greater conversation later on. Thank you.
Anyone else like to speak?
Roll call.
Roll call, Ms.
Councilor Recupero, absent. Councilor Teneri Garcia, absent. Councilor Robinson.
Yes.
Councilor Taylor.
Yes.
Councilor Lopez.
Yes.
Councilor Vega Maldonado.
Yes.
Councilor Avellaneda.
Yes.
Councilor Brown.
Yes.
Councilor Vido, absent. Councilor De Jesus, absent. Councilor Judy Garcia, absent. 6 in favor, none opposed, 5 absent. Motion is adopted.
Thank you, Ms.
We have an order appropriate from the FY 2022 Community Preservation Fund for CPA projects. The council appropriate the following amounts from the community preservation accounts as recommended by the Community Preservation Committee. $50,000 for Congregation Augustus Shalom from the CPA Historic Resources Reserve Fund, 4902, and $53,000 for the Department of Housing and Community Development, Housing and Community Preservation Coordinator from the CPA Community Housing Reserve Fund, 4903.
What's the will of the council?
Asked to adopt this on a motion to adopt on a roll call vote.
Motion to adopt under roll call vote. Anyone like to speak on the matter? Mr. President, you have the floor.
Thank you. Again, this is one of our happiest moments here when we are able to provide funding to, in this case, part of historic resources from the CPA to our local historic building, the Shalom on Walnut Street. And much needed repair that they normally can't raise for themselves, but this is the purpose of what the CPA was for. And I hope my colleagues will approve this unanimously tonight. Thank you.
Anyone else like to speak? If I may, from the podium. Thank you. I want to thank my colleague for this year. Again, this is a historic building in the city of Chelsea, building that some of the longtime councilors here would notice surpassed the different fires in the area here. It's very active. It's been working hard. Many of us have been down there on a number of occasions to celebrate the work that they do there. So it's just great that we have this fund that came from the CPR, and we're able to give it out. We've actually been trying to do some of the historic buildings here and continue to keep life in those buildings so we can continue to keep our character and our history here. So I want to thank the maker for this motion. Roll call vote.
Councilor Recupero absent, Councilor Teneri Garcia absent, Councilor Robinson, Councilor Taylor, Councilor Lopez, Councilor Vega Maldonado, Councilor Laneda,
Yes.
Councilor Brown.
Yes.
Councilor Vido absent, Councilor De Jesus absent, Councilor Judy Garcia absent, 6 in favor, none opposed, 5 absent. The motion is adopted. And you have
Is it the last order?
you have the last order presented, the 3 amendments on the zoning introduced by Councilor Avellaneda.
Motion to send to subcommittee and also to the planning board for a recommendation. And if I may speak
And a
on
public
this.
hearing, Council.
Public hearing.
And a public hearing, yeah.
Okay, so motion to send to subcommittee, that's subcommittee conference, is that,
Right,
Yes,
okay?
planning board
subcommittee,
Planning
public
board.
hearing, and planning board
and the
recommendation.
public hearing.
Public hearing.
Public hearing.
Okay, Mr. President, you got the floor if you'd like to speak.
Thank you. My colleague from the district is not here tonight, but both Councilor De Jesus and myself, talking to the owner of the 121 Webster Ave, which is in the shopping district, and has been talking to the city about allowing a repair shop for Tesla. And it's an exciting opportunity. There is a lot of competition for this sort of business. Right now, Tesla has only opened 9 such shops in the nation. As their fleet grows, as the sales go, there are more vehicles, but they're very specific. Right now, they are outsourcing this sort of work to the existing body shops, such as like Today's Auto, but there's a lot of problems. If you read into it, there's a lot of problems with this, so why Tesla is looking to open up their own collision shops. And the owner talked to myself and the district councilor about having this opportunity in a part of the building that has been historically transient and tenants. The paintball company has gone out of business. Before that, it was used for a sound shop for movie production, nothing that was been long-term, and surely nothing that provided the sort of economic, vibrancy that we're looking for. This is an opportunity, and we'll speak about it later, but have jobs for local residents. In this body shop, I envision some students who graduate from Northeast Voc, who take auto body up in Northeast Voc, and our Chelsea residents, and can graduate from Northeast Voc and work in this operation. I'm looking at the equipment that would be involved in here, the thousands and thousands of dollars that would be placed inside, that this community would be charging personal property taxes. And of course, a name brand like Tesla. Everyone knows that that's a premier name, and to have this one rare name in this community, I think would be a market changer for us, a promotion. So again, it was interesting to hear about the idea. I was excited. By no means, I told them 100% am I on, but I want to hear from my colleagues. I want to hear from the planning board and the city manager and see if this is something that we will entertain and change. But the plan here is ask the planning board for their thoughts, the planning with a recommendation, have a subcommittee with my colleagues, city manager and his staff, and also the owner, and then decide about whether or not this is the right fit for that area, and we'll decide and have a vote later on this fall. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak? No one else like to speak about the opportunity? Okay. No other business before us. Do we have any announcements? Mr. President.
As many of you know, this is, of course, our last session before the summer break, and we're getting very close to the 4th of July, and with that, I hope everyone will be safe, and of course, respectfully refrain, from making too much noise with fireworks in our neighborhoods. I know Councilor Taylor put in an ordinance last year to have some teeth on it. We don't want to fine people, but, you know, hopefully that we'll be all respectful. And I just want to wish my colleagues, both here and at home, who are not feeling too well, apparently there's a bug going around, that you all enjoy yourself, have a nice, safe summer, and we'll see you in the fall. Thank you.
Anyone else like to speak? Any moments of silence? Mr. Counselor Robinson.
Yeah, for retired police officer William Moore, who also, his wife was on the school committee for a number of years here, passed away up in New Hampshire, so I'd like to give a moment of silence for him.
There be any more moments of silence? Okay. Before we have the moments of silence, I just want to say we want to wish everyone a safe summer. As Councilor Avellaneda stated, that we got this new law. Councilor Taylor worked very hard, diligently against. The police will be out there. They will be enforcing it, and it's a hefty fine, thanks to our city solicitor and the work of the council members. But we want you to just, you know, behave, obey. It's been really good the last few days. It's usually a lot of fireworks leading up to the 4th of July, but we think because of the work that's been done by this council that folks have really took heed to it. So we want to thank our council member and our city solicitor for the work they put together to bring us some peace and quiet around this holiday and still celebrate. Moment of silence. Thank you.